Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. I will, of course, be your host, Callum, this evening, and thank you very much for joining on the last stream of 2023. I am thick with cold, but it's that time of year. It wouldn't be Christmas and New Year's without cold and flu going around, and there was no way that was going to miss the last stream of 2023. So I managed to drag myself out to be able to do it, and I appreciate you guys. Probably not dragging yourself off of the sofa. You're probably sat there with your cheese boards, your celebrations, and your various tipple of choice watching this. But thank you anyway. I thought we'd just keep it a little bit more simple, maybe light-hearted uh, for the last one, and basically go through and have a look at what we've seen this past year and what sort of indication that may give us of what we are going to see in the year ahead, but also years ahead. There's been some pretty monumental bits of news, consultations, even changes to our legislation, and there's certainly something in the air with change, and we never know, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? We will have to wait and see, but we can try and see where that goes. But we are between Christmas and New Year, so I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. I hope there were some, I don't know, gun-shaped presents under the tree, or accessories for the like, and maybe you've even managed to get out there and scrape yourself from the sofa and go and do some shooting in this holiday period. But yeah, I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas, and well, I'm probably not likely to forget, but just in case I do, wishing you all the very best in 2024 and a very happy new year going forward. I have to say, 2023, sort of news aside, streams aside, channel aside, it's definitely been one of, if not the best years that I've had the privilege of experiencing on this time, on my time on Earth. Not to get too philosophical or whatever, but yeah, in my personal earlier in the year, managed to get married, and there is a correlation, isn't there? There's the got married, and there's been less videos and less live streams. Hmm. Um, but yeah, got married, honeymoon, and yeah, things have been getting bigger and better and more tiresome with Magload as well. So I'm definitely going to look back on 2023 with great fondness, and some great memories, and I hope all of you can do the same. But this is of course English Shooting, and we can't be too optimistic and happy for too long, because we do live in a country that likes to try and penalize and take down and restrict gun owners at every single step, and there's been certainly a lot of this straight from the off, and maybe 2 or 3 years now of build up from various events. So looking back through the last year, the first real big um event that really took place, and real sign of where things were gonna head, is off of the back of the Keyham shootings, and the report that was released by the coroner of Plymouth, or Devon and Cornwall. I think Plymouth coroner. Let me just bring up that. So there was the findings of the inquest. Now, we have certainly not seen the end of this yet, by no stretch, because this ultimately, there are various recommendations, and this was just the coroner's recommendations. This isn't what was going to happen, what is sort of set in stone to where they're going to head. But this, of course, led to what Basque were coining as the most important consultation in 35 years. And it was the firearms licensing, a consultation on recommendations for changes made to the Home Office. Now, You must have been, I don't know, away for the year if you missed this on the channel. Again, it was everywhere. The response was reasonably good from the shooting community. I think maybe a glimmer of people actually, sitting up and paying attention to this one. I can't remember, and I certainly when I was trying to have a look through, I couldn't see any of the um, any of the sort of figures and facts on this one. It's probably just completely slipped my mind. I know we would have covered it if they had released it, but the outcome of this yet is far from coming to fruition. We have yet to see the full outcome of this, and of course the sort of questions. If we go back, yeah, here we go. So had loads of questions, and Bass gave their recommendations. I even gave some recommendations on this channel. As well for how you can answer it. TGS Outdoors, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you guys. It is funny that you're literally just down the road, and yet we only tend to see each other when we're invited to shoots and there's port involved. Uh, never. I've actually I've got I can't remember if this is the ones that actually touched Johnny's lips or mine. Maybe Johnny's, and that's probably why I kept it. Secret man crush right there. Uh, but yeah, so the consultation. Anyway, back onto serious business. The consultation, various scary questions. I think this was probably the scariest that came out of it. Do you consider the police should be granted specific power of entry without a warrant issued by a magistrate or sheriff to be able to seize shotguns, firearms, and ammunition where there is a risk to public safety? And I think this really did sort of um, strike fear in everybody of like, okay, this is where they are going. Like, again, let those words sink in for a second. Being able to just grant entry without any warrant. Um, Very, very shady, if you're going to ask me. And then there were less, I think, more genuine questions and stuff that we always expect to talk about renewal periods. This has been a conversation that we've been talking about for years now. A lot of people trying to push it to annual or 3 year from the current 5, and obviously a lot from Basque and Countryside Alliance and the BSSC trying to push for 10 years, and various pros and cons of doing that. But this is why I think this is being held as one of the most important. Just a couple of questions in, and it's already covering a lot of the things. Well, this is one of the main questions, one of the main topic discussion points that we've had for many years. A lot about references and referees, a lot about checklists for the referees, statutory guidance that they should be getting from the information that they should be getting, the circumstances when referees change, and all of that. A lot around the referees and that system. There's actually a lot of people out there that don't seem to give sort of give the reference system the time of day. I think it can be incredibly valuable. If you're not the sort of person that you can get one or two for a firearm certificate, if you can't get two people to sort of vouch for you, I think that can say quite a bit about your character. And I know there's a lot of people out there that instantly say, well, what if you've just moved here? What if you've just set up roots here in the UK? Certainly from a lot of people coming over from Ukraine, unexpectedly coming over from Ukraine. It can take a little while to establish those roots, but it's a very good indication. If you've got two people of good standing within the society, within the community, i.e. they don't have lengthy criminal records and they're able to read, write, and actually spell their name, that's a barrier that is some sort of check and balance. Doesn't really cost a lot to be able to do so. I see some value in it, but obviously they want to really sort of nail it down. Obviously, GP engagement, GP involvement, medical professional involvement, medical markers, all of that hot topic. So these are the sort of areas that they're going after with this. Mental health advice support, phone lines to dob in shooters, Again, this is something that we've talked about loads and loads of times. They want every avenue to be able to report a shooter, to be able to take their guns away. And I think, yeah, that was all about it. So yeah, the really gives you a flavor of where they're looking at and where we could potentially see changes to the legislation going forward. Where it's going to go, I don't know, but I think we're going to get a big sign in 2024. I think we're going to see some fruition from this in 2024. We just have to see how that goes. It could turn into nothing. Remember that there was a lot of recommendations from that coroner's report that the Home Office just straight away came out and said, no, we're not taking them on advisement. We're not going to implement them, mainly around the alignment of shotgun certificates and firearm certificates, saying there's really no need to do that. There's certainly no evidence to suggest that's going to be beneficial. So, are they going to get the data back from this and go, actually, we're pretty happy with the system the way it is, and we're going to continue it forward? Or is this going to be the real basis to overhaul firearms licensing? That's been a huge topic this year, the past year, about from both sides, complete overhauls. From the Kean report, you've had there used to be the Chief Police Association. It's the National Chief Police Organization, or whatever they're called it now. They literally they change acronyms like underwear. But it's basically the Felwig have talked about it, BSSC has talked about it. Like literally every corner, any stakeholder within firearms licensing and firearms ownership has talked about a firearms licensing or firearms legislation or firearms licensing overhaul. I mean, Basque and even Field Sports Channel TV been really pushing this notion of like, we either need it to be centralized for consistency, or we need some accountability. We need an ombudsman. We need a a central authority on it to be able to beat the county's firearms licensing departments that aren't particularly doing well. So my general feel is that we are going to see a lot more change. I think there has to be change, not necessarily change that we are going to directly see, or that is going to necessarily affect us directly in terms of the processes that we have to go through for firearms ownership. But it was evidence from the report with Kiam, the continued lack of consistent training that firearms licensing personnel receive, the complete void of actually any sort of checks and balances where they are concerned, in terms of are they actually being tested on this? Is there actual accreditation, or is it they spend a couple of a couple of weeks with an old boy FEO and they sort of learn the ropes, and that's it? They're chucked into the wild, and they can sort of make of it what they will. And I think that's ultimately what we've been seeing so far within firearms licensing, and probably ultimately what has led to this mess that we've seen. And I think mess is, in some ways, is a bit of an understatement. Again, so many organizations, associations, and news outlets within the shooting community here have really sort of lambasted firearms licensing and the police and the Home Office from their failures to learn from the likes of Dunblane, to what has been uncovered with the failures in Devon and Cornwall, leading to Kiam. And there's been a real void of actual sort of tangible response from the Home Office and police for previous incidences and previous advice that they have been given. So it's led to this ongoing issue of inadequate firearms licensing personnel. I think ultimately the legislation, the statutory guidance, the guidance to chief police and firearms licensing individuals, does the job. We have some of the toughest firearms licensing or firearms legislation within the world. We have some of, if not the lowest reported gun crime and homicide rate with firearms. So something has to be working. But every single time we have an issue, to put it lightly. It roots back to the failure to sort of adhere to that guidance, to that legislation, to correctly implement it. So, you know, will we actually see change on our side? It could be quite likely that we don't. Are we going to see a lot of change on the other side of the wall in terms of the way that firearms licensing personnel are trained, how they are monitored, how they are accredited, how are tested, on an ongoing basis? I think absolutely. I think that's what we need more than anything, and potentially that's what these consultations are going to reach, the conclusion that they are going to reach. So yeah, there's nothing negative on the horizon. I think there is some change here and there that we are going to see in 2024. Hopefully for the best. Hopefully they are finally going to learn from the lessons of Dunblane, from Kiam, and stop banning things, because that's been proven time and time again never to work. The real issue is the legislation and the guidance being implemented correctly. Of course, something that I've been showing many times throughout the year, and I think this article from the Gun Trade News really does sort of sum it up. So we've just been talking about one of the prongs, that we've yet to see any legislative change, but the other major prong that we have seen and has probably been the biggest talking point, in clubs, in club rooms, on forums, online, on this live stream, is the lead ban. Funnily enough, on the date of the last stream, um, Basque released their response. I'm just trying to find it. I definitely had it up earlier. Um, here we go. So of course, HSE have been looking over the banning of lead, and lead ammunition here within the UK, and they have gone. A lot of people, I think, were quite surprised that it was all seemed to be focused around lead shot, as in bird shot, shotgun cartridges, and it sort of exploded onto everything. Talking about air gun pellets, rifle ammunition, and bird shot. So a real sort of widespread sort of reform of the use of lead, within various types of shooting. And as it stands at the moment, it looks very likely that we are going to lose the use of lead for outdoor hunting, so game shooting, pest control, and on all of that with shotgun ammunition. It looks like rifle ammunition and air gun ammunition is going to be okay for those uses, but lead shot, it is going to go. And there's this sort of misunderstanding at the moment, depends how you want to read it, but certainly more restrictions on the outdoor use of lead for target sports, for with rifle ammunition, but designated sites where you can still go and do that. Talks, obviously, about the further restriction of birdshot outdoors for target sports, which would absolutely kill the likes of practical shooting. The air gunners seem to have got off fairly lightly for both hunting and target shooting, and of course, indoor shooting will not be affected at all. But this is going to have a major effect on of shooting going forward. It makes any legislation changes and any changes to the processes of firearms licensing immaterial, because if we don't have the ammunition to go out there and take part in this sport, it doesn't matter how easy it is or difficult it is to actually go and get a certificate, go and buy that gun, join a club, and join this community. If you can't go and actually make use of the objects that you're trying to obtain, then sort of what's the point? So that's why we've seen this again, as the Gun Trade News has put it, the two-pronged approach at further restriction shooting. Where this firearms consultation will go, we don't know. Where the lead consultation will go, we are seeing more and more hints. But I find it absolutely hilarious, and I couldn't do the final stream of 2023 without a little bit of Basque bashing, because it like breathe, compose myself. Um, like their inability to sort of read what they're saying, um, and actually think that, to see the irony, their inability to see their own irony here is immense, right? Screw everything else that they're rambling on in this document. This is the thing that just stood out directly, directly to me straight away. Basque's position on lead ammunition. Basque is opposed to any further regulation on the use of lead ammunition in the UK. Right. Okay, so we're just going to um, completely forget about and move on from the voluntary transition away from lead, right? It's well, let me. I'm just. I should have got this up. Here we go. Ammunition. Right, this is on Basque's website, right? The move away from lead ammunition. Limited. Oh, this. Well, is this the? Where is it? Where's the voluntary transition? Where is it? Come on. There we go. Well, I've just. It's somewhere on that page, but this is the. This is what they were pushing for. Where does this leave the voluntary transition called for by the shooting organizations? When they say shooting organizations, they mean like Basque. Basque will continue to pursue its voluntary transition away from lead shot and single-use plastics for live quarry shooting with shotguns. The transition has been successful in starting change in the sector. Has it really? By what metrics, Basque? So, on one hand, their formal response to this lead consultation, or the additional lead consultation that we've just had, is, we're opposed to any further regulation on the use of lead ammunition. But meanwhile, they're the ones that kick-started this whole voluntary transition. And this is really what I've been saying from the very, very start, is once they came out and took that position of, yes, we should move away from lead, it completely obliterates any sort of defense or being able to take any sort of stand against moving away from lead. And look what they did. We've suddenly we were talking about birdshot ammunition, and now we're talking about rifle ammunition, we're talking about airgun ammunition, we're talking about quarry shooting, we're talking about game shooting, and we're talking about target shooting. Like Basque better than anybody should know, if you give them an inch, they are going to take a mile and more. And that is exactly what they have done. So yeah, thanks again, Basque. Like, just don't, just can they just please just wake up and live in the real world and just put their hands up and go, yeah, we don't know what we were smoking at the time. It was a bad move. What we were trying, and we all know what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring it in voluntarily so that the HSE wouldn't bother them, right? They wouldn't bother the community. They was like, well, if we do it, then there's going to be no need for them to do it, to further restrict and regulate us. But no, what they did is they put the ball on the penalty spot, walked up, kneecapped their own goalkeeper, and allowed Cristiano Ronaldo to just, tap it into the goal. That's literally what they're doing. Or they have, Cristiano Ronaldo being HSE. There is clear evidence. It's again like, whatever. So it's their full report. This is all on their website. It was published up on the 14th of December. What are they concerned about? That the HSE has underestimated the cost of its restriction proposals. Well, really, that again, they're sort of two birds and a feather with that one, right? Because again, it was Basque that came out and said that the cartridge industry was ready to transition, that everything was in place. And really, there was actually millions of pounds worth of research and development still left to do, and there wasn't enough time, and they didn't have the resources to implement it in their voluntary transition period. So, in terms of underestimating, Basque and HSC are sort of in the same club in that one. The lack of UK evidence contained in the HSC background document about the positions within HSC, about the narrow scope. Basque is calling on the HSC to ensure any proposals for live quarry with lead shot have realistic timeframes before any restrictions come into force. Again, the Basque were the ones in 2020 saying that we should have a 5-year transition, and they're still going, like, literally they've now flipped the coin and said, no, 5 years isn't enough. um I'm just trying to see if they've got the actual oh, here we go. Lead shot for quarry shooting. Basque is opposed to the HSE proposal for restrictions for lead shot. So this is likely to what we are going to see. Whilst there is another consultation that we haven't seen the result of yet, a lot of people that are pessimistic about this thing and this sort of thing, we're going to see. A lot of people say it's a given. They don't really care what we say. I'm dead against that. I think you very much do have a voice, and your voice can very much make a difference. And every consultation that you have the opportunity to take part in, you should. At the very least, you can be there smug at the clubhouse going, well, I did my bit, right? When everybody else is going, oh, I didn't bother. So what are we going to see? We're going to see potential restrictions for lead shot for live quarry shooting. Because the shooting sector voluntarily transitioned away from lead shot for live quarry shooting. No, it didn't, Basque. They are just so full of shit, aren't they? They are unbelievably full of shit. Anyway, lead shot for target shooting. Basque is opposed. Restrictions on the use of lead shot for target shooting. So we could see potential restrictions on lead shot for target shooting. Restrictions on the use of lead rifle ammunition for quarry shooting, so we're going to see restrictions there. Lead rifle ammunition for target shooting, we're going to see further restrictions for lead rifle ammunition for target shooting. Lead airgun pellets, again, I didn't think they were going to bring in any controls on this, but anyway, they're opposed to everything, so they've royally changed their tune where that is concerned. So yeah, I think overall 2024, we are going to see a lot of things coming to head about the firearms consultation that we've seen from the recommendations off the back of Kiam and the the sort of refresh of the Lord Cullen report and rediscussions about that, and we're going to see a lot of things come to fruition from this lead. Are we actually going to see lead banned in 2024? I don't think so. Even the HSC have talked about transitional periods in the years, but we could see at least the beginning of the end. We could at least potentially from 2024 know the timescales, the timeline, what restrictions are going to come in, when they are going to come in. Are there going to be buybacks? Is there going to be grandfathering? What exemptions are they going to be? What are they going to be? What are the requirements going to be for different ranges and all of that? So we are definitely going to learn. This is, I think, we've learned a lot this year about certainly where they're looking, be that for the firearms licensing or lead. But I think we're going to see a more solid sort of result, not solid result, more sort of solid direction of where they're going next year. Those are by far the biggest. Apologies again. If you have just joined me, I am thick with cold, but it is that time of year, and I do have something to help combat it. Nice little thing. Yes, it is still a stemless wine glass, despite being to various shops where they have the Glencairns. I haven't picked some up yet, so yep, I'm still not being particularly cultured. Whether the whiskey is actually going to help with the cold and combat it, I don't know, but it makes me care less. So that's as good, that's as good as it is in my book. Like, it's like ibuprofen. Ibuprofen doesn't actually solve the problem; it just stops you from caring, just like most hard substances, I guess. Anyway, moving on. Um, but let's have a quick look at what you guys are saying. I've been seeing the chat box um, going through. We will get on to the other sort of big things of 2024 and yeah, potentially, sorry, of 2023 and what we may see in 2024. Frank O'Grady, 2024, the year of Callum and his FAC. Yes, and being led like a donkey with a carrot. Uh, most likely. Uncle Traveling Matt. Aren't we legally allowed to own a firearm for protecting our home? You can see why America keep their Second Amendment. Look what they have done to us over the years. Ooh. Um, yes, a interesting topic, one that I've sparsely covered on this channel before. Um, aren't we legally allowed to own a firearm for protecting our home? No. Let's just talk about the facts, or I'll stay away from opinions. That's usually what gets me in trouble. No, anything, be it a firearm or otherwise, that is used for the purpose of self-defense is automatically considered an offensive weapon. That can be a baseball bat, a golf club, a lampshade, or a butter knife. If you have something specifically for the purpose of self-defense, it becomes, even though your intention is for self-defense and not for offense or offending, it is still considered an offensive weapon, and guns are covered under that. There is no mechanism within mainland UK for you to own a firearm for the purpose of self-defense. The only exception to this is in Northern Ireland, where you are allowed a personal protection weapon, which you apply to the police. But even in Northern Ireland, it's for circumstances where you have to be able to demonstrate a viable threat to your life. And I believe the main premise of that system was actually for off-duty police officers to still be armed, obviously, when there was the troubles and everything out there. So Northern Ireland's sort of like a special case, but certainly in England, Scotland, and Wales, there is no mechanism for that. And in terms of the Second Amendment and America and home defense, I mean, really, yes, of course, people use the Second Amendment for home defense in the UK, in the US, but it's not. The Second Amendment is actually nothing to do about home defense, and actually, really nothing about sort of an individual's ability to defend themselves. It's about a well-armed militia being able to defend themselves against a tyrannical government. Yes, that can, drip off and be used in individual cases, home defense or otherwise. But that's actually, dates back more to when America had to fight for their freedom from us Brits, won and made a constitution that means that hopefully, well, hopefully it never happens, but if it does happen, America are equipped to keep themselves free and true. Moving on. I think that was as factual and unopinionated as I could be on that. Peter Rose, if they bring in a 2 or 3 year license, it'll be a permanent temporary license. Yes, I think really firearms licensing have proven that they are literally incapable of bringing the licensing sort of schedule any less than 5 years. There's some counties that literally can't keep up with 5 years. How are they ever going to do 1, 2, 3, whatever? And I think that's one of the biggest arguments actually for going to a 10-year system is, instead of all this constant 5-year paperwork, actually make it 10 years and implement more constant monitoring. Because let's be serious, it doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, or 10 years, right? There's still large amounts of time. And what I always say is, somebody can completely change over a few weeks, right? Somebody can go through major life events in a very quick succession, become unsuitable very, very quickly. 5 years isn't enough to capture that. 1 year in some cases wouldn't be enough to capture that. So what we actually need is more continual monitoring. These markers with medical records and the further involvement of GPs and potentially other organizations, so that if somebody does start sort of going off the rails, or certainly before they go properly off the rails, but they start down that path, that it's picked up, that it's more important to pick it up then than, by the time they get round to their 5-year renewal, it's probably going to be too late, if you see what I'm saying. So yeah, I don't think they will be successful. If they do, if the Home Office, the government are stupid enough to try and reduce it any less than 5 years, that really would just be the death nail to firearms licensing. They would they're sort of very slowly imploding as it is. That would just be it. It would be absolute insanity. Some cheery topics for this festive period. In Canada, we have had over 8,000 people die of opiate overdoses in the last year. However, our prime minister has chosen. It's the cold, not the whiskey, I promise. Chosen to punish legal gun owners that have killed no one and the left-eye lunatics. Yes, of course, Canada have had it pretty bad this year over 2023, as have Australia, from what I remember. Yeah, what Trudeau is doing is absolute insanity. He is really playing from various dangerous playbooks when it comes to firearms ownership, and it's not going to end well for anybody going forward. It is not going to solve the problem. We see it time and time again. He is purely just trying to, at best case, he's just trying to win easy votes with people and still portray Canada as like the sensible America. Yeah, no. Peter Rose, my license ran out 2 weeks ago. I got a letter saying I'm covered until 2028. Surely it won't take the FEO that long to get to me. It's all okay, but I can't buy any ammo in it on it, or buy another gun. Yeah, that is ridiculous. It's sort of part and parcel of what we've been seeing. It's not uncommon now to see people on a 12-month, 18-month temporary certificate. Yeah, I don't, what force are you in, Peter? I think you might have said Northants. Yeah, I haven't heard Northants being particularly bad, but yeah, that is utterly ridiculous. And I would be kicking up merry hell. Like, honestly would. Like, so they're saying that it's okay for you in your hobby not to be able to buy ammunition for the next 4 years. Yeah, that's utterly ridiculous. And it also poses the question. Oh, bless me. I said I was ill. Um, it also poses the question of, the actual financial difficulties that this can cause people, right? A lot of people have a lot of money tied up within their firearms and their guns. What if you need to start selling them, right? It makes it a lot harder and certainly limits your options significantly. I'm not going to go into specifics and details, because obviously it's sort of personal and private. I believe they do watch the channel as well. But talking about firearms licensing, I had sort of a tale of two halves recently. So as some of you will know, obviously I run Magload with Connors. We have a registered firearms dealership, which means that we can buy and sell guns and collect guns from the police. And as I have said plenty of times on this channel, if you do find yourself in a difficult situation for whatever reason, your certificate is running out, you've had them revoked, or you just, whatever, you've had a disgruntled ex make some accusations and you just want to be proactive about preventing any issues, we do offer a collection and storage service at Magload. Unfortunately, it was a little bit worse on this in this circumstances, but this was last week. Yeah, Thursday before Christmas. Um, I'm not going to say who the person is or even who the force are, but the force. So basically, somebody was, I think, quite incorrectly pressured into giving up their certificates. He spoke in depth about the circumstances and what had happened, and same old similar case of you know no conviction, no sort of formal charges, um, but because there had been an issue, they were basically pressuring him to give up his certificates. And the way he described it, it was like, right, we're going to drop this case if you give us your certificates. If you don't give us your certificates, then we will look at prosecuting you on these charges. Now that uh, is perfect. It's probably perfectly within the law for them to do that. That I have heard of a couple of circumstances like that, but it was pretty disgusting that that's how they could operate. Like at the moment, you're not facing prison, but if we want to, we can. So give us your guns. So he ended up surrendering his certificates. He gave us a call. Um, we have a couple of options in this case. We have we can sell on commission, or we can buy the guns at trade, and pick them up, and that's it. And he went for the latter option. Um, and it is it's gut wrenching because I know what people pay retail for these guns. Obviously, we're in the trade; we've got to pay trade prices. Um, and I know as a shooter from outside of working full time in the industry, and having been through that process myself, having to sell guns because I've lost my tickets, how much money you can lose, right? No one's there to compensate that for you. But we went and picked up the guns, but it was actually quite, I don't know, it was an interesting experience. Turned up at the police station, um, and I have to say, like, the guys were professional, and well, they were professional to an extent. They were very welcoming and polite, and all of that. I had no issues with them. Um, but a few things that just sort of baffled me. When I go into these situations, certainly with the history that I've had, I go in with everything. Like I've got the certificate, I've got emails, I've got driving licenses, passports, all of that. Like if they need any sort of ID or verification of who I am or the RFD or whatever, like I've got it on me. Like I'm not gonna let them pull a fast one and be like, oh no, you don't have this specific, you don't have a utility bill and your passport, we can't sign over the guns to you. So I go in very well prepared. So we're sat there in the lobby, and the guy, the I don't know if he's an FEO, but the guy that was handling the handover came out. There was two guys. One had a big bag of ammunition, um, and I think like one rifle case under his arm. And the other guy, and this is within a police station. It's always very, very odd when you go into a police station and you end up coming out with guns. I still haven't been able to mentally process that myself yet. But they come out and they've got rifle cases and ammunition and all sorts, right? But obviously he didn't have enough hands. The main guy that was handling it all didn't have enough hands for all of the guns that he was carrying. So he had elected, and YouTube, this is an airsoft gun. It's not a real firearm. I know it gets very touchy. YouTube gets very touchy handling it. And yes, that is Connor's in there. He's always there in spirit. He comes out with an LBP. For those of you that don't know what an LBP is, it's got a long rod and a long barrel pistol, right? He has got his finger magazine inserted, slide forward, no breech flag. He's carrying this LBP like that, right, facing backwards. That's how he comes out. He comes out like that, and I'm sat behind him, right. So what can I see? What can I see sat down there, literally at the exact height that it's being held? The muzzle. I am looking down the barrel of this gun as he holds it in the trigger guard by one finger, mag inserted, slide forward. And it's like because of my past experiences and all of that, I have learned to a degree to just keep my mouth shut, but it hurts. I'm like, I think I had every right in that situation to throw every toy out the pram and give that guy a proper dressing down. But, I'm there effectively with a customer. It's a delicate situation overall, and I don't want to overcomplicate matters. But it's like, to me, this is what worries me the most about firearms license and the police's involvement with guns, is that every time I have a sort of a hands, there are exceptions. I say every time, most of the time that I have any face-to-face experience with the police and handling firearms, certainly guns that are privately owned, not like armed police and all of that, they they do not know what they are doing. And I would go one step further, say that they're actually dangerous in the way that they approach certain things. Like, to me, I think every single rule was broken there. Um, every fundamental rule of firearm safety was broken. Like, he has just come out of a back room. I don't. Yes, it's got that nice little tag hanging from the gun, which is meant to be through the breech, so it actually shows that the gun is clear. But it's got that tag saying it's cleared. It's got a mag in it. Slide forward, finger round the trigger guard. Just absolutely gobsmacked that somebody who is meant to literally be a professional firearms handler would ever come out into their lobby, right? It wasn't just me there. There was another guy who was buying another item. The guy that had surrendered his guns. There's people behind the counter, at the reception, and this other guy. And I'm like, that was my first introduction to this guy. So, and then there was the several times that he tried to sweep me. We ended up going through the process. Oh, that was it. Before we ended up in the room. So he goes, who's having the ammunition? Well, that's going to be, I'm going to take the ammunition. And the guy just proceeds to hand me a massive bag, and there's everything in it. There's 2.2, there's slug, there's buck, there's birch, but there's section 1 and section 2 ammunition in this. Of course, section 2, anybody can handle it. Section 1 can't. And he hands me to it and goes, "Do you want to put that in your car?" Right? You haven't even asked who I am, right? Like, you don't, like, do you not want to see the RFD certificate? Do you not want to see any ID? I'm like quite literally a bloke off the street as far as you are concerned. Perhaps you already did know who I am. Most firearms licensing officers tend to, but I would never assume that. But no checks. Like, I mean, quite literally a guy off the street that he as the police are handing the ammunition to. Right, you're in charge of that. We'll sort out the paperwork in a minute. Well, I'm sorry, I could be halfway up the M4 before you realize that I haven't produced the authority to be able to possess this. So that was another scary interaction. Then we go into the room, and he does go through the motion of showing me that the guns are all cleared before handing them over, but sweeping me several times whilst trying to show me that the guns are cleared. You know, but that was just. I'm sure most people that have been in that situation with the police or firearms licensing have encountered similar. But I have to say that probably takes the prize for the worst in terms of, say, firearms handling that I've experienced so far. But they were, despite muzzling me several times, they were very polite. It was actually very, very simple. Presented everything that I needed to, done, out the door. No issues. There was an there was another one as well earlier in the year. Again, this, unfortunately, because of the state of firearms licensing at the moment, there's so many revocations. It's one of the bits that I want to chat about in a bit. There was somebody else that again had to call on our services. I can't remember if I mentioned this on the stream. Again, I'm not going to say the force, but we end up in this room where they produce all of the firearms and ammunition to hand it over, and they're all in evidence bags, right? And they said, we store this in our evidence room, and we open up this evidence bag, and it's a canvas sort of drag bag, and like Connors is there. Connors was there on this one. And they open this bag, and we were like, we get this whiff, and we both look at each other. We both look at each other, and it's like we go like that. Just smells of weed straight away. Smells of weed. Um, and the guy sort of clocks our reaction to the smell, or he certainly um clocks there's been a reaction, and goes, "Oh, you know, you're sorry if it smells a bit. They're stored in our evidence locker." And we're like, "What? Like with everything?" "Yeah, yeah, with everything." So we ended up carrying out guns and ammunition out of a police station, smelling of weed. Like again, like, just put that one down in the books. Like it's a very strange world. I would have maybe we should have sent a little note to Hampshire. If you come and do a spot check over the next couple of weeks, please do not be alarmed that our armory smells of weed. It was actually from the police. And the thing is, fair dues to those guys. They had they'd properly sealed it up. Like, so God knows what that evidence room smells like. Like the bag was properly sealed, and yet it still managed to permutate into it. Like absolutely incredible. And a word of warning on that one as well. I don't know if I said to you guys about this, but if you do ever, and I didn't do it, and I regret not doing it for various reasons. If you ever do have your firearm seized and you have to surrender them to the police, video it. Video every single second, and at the very least, get detailed pictures of the guns as you are handing them over. Because in this particular case, whilst they did have them in the proper gun evidence cardboard bits and they were sealed up, somebody had decided to try and play curling with one of the guns, and unfortunately, it was heavily customized, Cerakoted, custom job, and this bit of the gun, and I think the scope had sort of punched through or worn through, and was scuffed to all hell, right? So I've said it before, like the police and firearms licensing don't appreciate what these items are to you, right? They don't understand the value that they can hold. They don't understand the sentimental value that something like that can hold. So document everything. You should probably be doing that, in terms of a New Year's resolution. Here's the first one of the stream. You document your guns better, right? At least once a year, you should be pulling everything out. First of all, just to check that everything is still there, and take photos of it. Right, once a year, take photos of it. Make sure you've got a record of what you've got, what condition it's in, because you never know. You could be burgled. You could heaven forbid lose one of them. Um, you could have them. You could have your certificates revoked, and them. There's so many different circumstances. So you should be documenting. I know all of you should have that bit of paper with them all on, but that doesn't say what optic it's got on it. It doesn't say what grip and accessories and condition or the Cerakote or stuff like that. Right? It just you should be documenting this stuff as best as possible. Now, fortunately, the police, they do wear body cams when they usually do these handovers, and they straight away sort of put their hands up and was like, "Yeah, that didn't come in like that. That's obviously been done in the evidence room," and the customer was able to fill out a compensation, but it does happen. Oh yeah, so there's two highlights of visiting and collecting firearms from the police in 2023. Absolutely, yeah, gobsmacking in some ways. Oh, I need more medicine, or just to care less. There we go. Honestly, I was considering joining Basque, but I don't think I ever will because of that. Yeah, 100%. I thought this year might be the year that I rejoin. They have done a lot of very good stuff this year, but the lead has just left such a bad taste in my mouth. No pun intended. I just you just don't know what you're going to get with them. If you literally took all of their good stuff from this year and that's all they had done, 100%, I would be joining up and supporting them. Supporting them 100%. But it's this, like, when they get it wrong, they tend to get it really, really wrong. Bullets and pixels, UK PSA, AGM, online or in person. Yes. There's been a lot of confusion about the AGM. So the I believe the going through all of the council minutes, and this is, don't hold me to gospel on this one. Going through all the council minutes, and also the last year's AGM. I think it was actually there was a member that raised about holding holding online AGM, because of course we did it over COVID. Um, it was largely successful, but we held on over COVID, and there were certainly a lot of benefits to doing it. And we, of course, living in 2023, soon to be 24, like, I think we should be moving more online. And I believe the membership did vote at the AGM against an online. But what was voted on was to look at means of bringing the AGM online. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion has come from, that there's certainly been a proactive push to put it online. Um, and I think some people have sort of run with that. So I believe the AGM will definitely be online. You will be able to log in online and vote and take part. I'm not aware yet of the confirmed venue. I believe, I don't know. It's Graham Mitchell. That's actually it's our secretary that's dealing with all of that. I think we are going for both from memory. I was at the last council meeting, um, but I believe it's going to be both, or if it's just one, it will just be online. And it was definitely raised in the last council meeting that seemed to be going against the membership. I think how it was left was, we'll go and see if it can be done online, and it was decided that it could. And I think ultimately the main driving force to moving it more online is the engagement. I think it was something like there were like 60 people that attended the in-person AGM last year, and then the COVID AGM that was online, there was like 150 people on it. And when you look at those sorts of figures, like, it is better for the association and for the membership to be having it online. If more people are joining in, and more people are voting, and more people are having a say in the direction of the association, then that's only a good thing. So I think that's been the main driving force of bringing it online. And yeah, I can see it from both ways. Yeah, if you can't be bothered, or if you're not able to make the time to travel down or up to the AGM in person, like, do you really care that much about the association? Right? That argument could be made, and I could sit on that side of the fence. You know, but when you bring when you bring into it affordability, and the fact that, people do, whilst it's held on the weekends, a lot of people work on the weekends. So when you've got to start taking holiday, and then, if you're coming from the, like, look at the recall lot, right? I don't believe any of them attended the AGM last year. And speaking to a number of them that wanted to come down, they said, look, like, it's like 4 or 5 hours down, 4 or 5 hours up, right? It's not safe for me to sort of do that in a day. So I have to stay, right? So I'm talking, 60, 100 quid in fuel. I'm talking 100, 150 quid in hotel, and then food and all that. And he was like, before you know it, it's costing 250, 300 quid for some of our members to attend the AGM. And we can't, we can't exclude those members, because you can't exclude them because they can't afford to come down, because it's not about whether they want to or whether they can be asked to. It's just, £200-300 could be could make the difference of people having food that month or not. So yeah, you can't exclude them because of the cost. It needs to be open to everyone. So again, there's a lot of stuff that is done online now. I believe all of the other associations do their stuff online. What has been discussed is actually splitting out the AGM, because the biggest one of the biggest aspects to people wanting a face-to-face AGM are the prize givings, are the national champions that are crowned at the AGM and presented their trophies, the postal league, and all of that. So obviously, moving online, we're not likely to have that. But look at the CPSA. The CPSA do a really good job of separating out the two. You shouldn't be holding an AGM just to have a prize giving, right? Hold a prize giving to have a prize giving. And what the CPSA do is they have their AGM, they have their meeting, and then they have their awards ceremony. I know because I filmed them for 2 years. And they do a proper good job. And because there's no politics involved, because there's no voting, there's no people running, and people's disgruntlements being aired, as has been the case for so many years now, it becomes just a really fun, enjoyable night. Right, no politics. It's a celebration. It's celebrating the year gone by. It's celebrating the people who have championed, and you're able to sit back and relax. Like, when you're going into an AGM, you can't be sat there with a beer, glass of wine, or whatever, just having a nice chat. Like, it's serious bit of work that needs to be done. So I think actually moving the AGM solely online and having the voting and all of that, and people running, and the discussions, I don't think there's any argument for them to be in person. Have the award ceremony in person, right? Separate out the two. Have a big party celebration, so commemorating the year and the success of that year, and then have the politics online where everybody can get involved. Even if you don't get involved, you can at least see it, right? You can see what the direction of the association. So yes, I believe the main prong is going to be online for this year. I would imagine that full directions are going to be posted in due course, but that's not actually something that I've been involved in. Again, that's very much Arian in terms of the comms, and Graham as the secretary, arranging and organising that. They just send me the invoices, and I get them paid. Let's just catching up. Conflict of interest of somebody being an certificate. They probably won't like certificate holders being FEOs. There's a number of FEOs that I'm aware of, certainly in Hampshire, that are certificate holders that are FEOs. Yes, it potentially could be a conflict of interest. It could, but conflicts of interest can be managed. And at the end of the day, when you're part of the process of handing somebody the responsibility to hold a firearms certificate, whilst you may want as many people holding firearms as possible, that's your conflict. It's your neck on the line if you are part of the process of giving somebody one that isn't suitable. But yeah, there's no automatic exclusion of an FEO holding a certificate and not being able to hold that role. Bullet and Pixels, another 6 hours online, then potentially, but I think our chairman this year has demonstrated, certainly within the council meetings, to keep things short and sweet and to not let things evolve. Andy has been very, very good at that for the past year. So yeah, bearing in mind, it's still a long event, even in person, and at least online you can sit there on your sofa, grab a beer, get a takeaway in, and all of that. But but yeah, in person, you gotta still remain respectable. I just like the idea of you know, sitting there in my underwear, giving the treasurer's report. I'll keep it brief. Bum, 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 tss. Nick Deveridge Smith. Surely, if putting guns into storage or handing in for whatever reason, then removing accessory scopes and even magazines, except moderators, should or could be removed to minimize damage. Absolutely. Again, that is another aspect, you know, to consider. If you are ever in the unfortunate circumstance that you're having your guns revoked, your certificates revoked, and your guns seized. But again, I can talk from personal experience, and certainly more recently through the experience of others. First of all, in those circumstances, there's usually something else going on, right? There's something else, whether you're in the wrong or whether you're in the right. There's something else that has happened to cause that result, right? To cause them to ask for your certificates, to cause them to seize your guns. So you're usually already sort of processing and dealing with that, and then it's almost like a side. You're almost just oblivious to the fact that they're coming in and taking the guns as well, because a lot of the time they're not connected. Sorry, guys. Um, they're not connected. Like, it will be, you know, your mind will be somewhere else, and it's like the last thing you're sort of thinking of are the guns. Second of all, a lot of the time is that they won't let you handle the guns when they come to seize them. You know, they're coming to seize them because there's a doubt on your suitability to own them, right? So why are they going to stand there and let you handle the guns in front of them if they have concerns about your suitability? Um, so in those circumstances, there might just not be enough time. You might not be in the right headspace to sort of process what's going on and sort of take that action, or you might not be allowed to. I know a number of them where the police's protocol has been, give us your keys. Give us your keys and show us where the safe is, and we will take it from there. Right. In that circumstances, they did also leave like 3,000 rounds of ammunition in the safe when they left, but that wasn't the fault of the certificate holder or the guy that was having his certificates pulled. So yeah, it is a very pragmatic and very good idea. And if you have the opportunity to, I would try and strip as much as you can off of the guns. But it's very easy to say you're sat there in the comfort of your home, you know, not under that sort of stress or in that situation, that's what you should do. When you're actually in it, it's your mind's going a mile a minute. Um, and I've heard also a lot of people go, well, I didn't want to take my scope off because I didn't want to lose zero. And it's like, yeah, but you're losing the gun. Like, it doesn't matter if the gun's zeroed anymore. You're not going to have it. You're not going to have it anymore. Um, Jamroy 1993. I legit had my FEOs. I legit had my FEO in my house when the house stank of weed so bad it gave me headaches. I think the neighbor was growing in the attic. Jeez. That's the thing is, well, I think that's poor. That's either in the FEO's defense, maybe he didn't know what it smelled like, or I don't know, was a conscientious objector when it came to enforcing. You never know, do you? Frank O'Grady, for mini rifle, what would you pick as your number one? I know you run a Smith and Wesson M&P, but why over the others? I think you need to have a look at some of the videos that have been out this year. I don't run the 1522 anymore. I actually run a Battle Arms development that's built by Cotswold Classic Arms. It's a mag-loaded Cotswold Classic Arms Battle Arms development ambi, although they've now called it's the Authority Elite, I think is the model name of it now. So the MMP, It's a difficult one, right? It's horses for courses. The 1522 is still up there. Is it the best gun on the market? In terms of performance, accuracy, compatibility, no, right? There's actually now a lot of guns on the market that sort of trounce the MMP for quality, performance, accuracy, reliability, all of that stuff, right? Where it gets very tricky not to recommend the 1522 is that usually the performance, the accuracy, the compatibility isn't that much more to justify the significant increase in cost. So when you bring price into it, the MMP in my mind is unbeatable. You know, for 600 quid, you got a gun that you could go into a competition and win. Like, okay, all of the mini rifle competitions this year, I think exclusively like the top 3, top 5, at least have all been guns built by Cotswold Classic Arms. But is a 1522 going to prevent you from getting the top spot? There could be some circumstances because what we've seen over the past few years is mini rifle going out to further and further distances. This was really accentuated out at Pro Shoot this year at the Welsh Mini Rifle Championships, where we were taking 120-yard standing shots with the mini rifles. Bless me. Yeah, it was a brilliant stage, but yeah, 125 yards. And the issue with the MMP is that it flexes as soon as you start to brace it. It flexes, and a lot of people tried to brace doing that. And as soon as you put any tension on it, you change the point of impact of the gun. So that's why there's been a big sort of trend of people moving to the full metal mil spec ARs to get rid of that. To get rid of that flex. Also, the 1522 is notoriously bad with mil spec aftermarket triggers. That's why actually Magload we make the relier pin for the 1522, which has an enlarged rear section of the firing pin, because I believe it's in the 1522 the firing pin and bolt sits slightly higher, and I think if you get an OEM 1522 trigger and you look at the hammer lengths compared to a mil spec trigger, whilst they will look pretty much identical, the hammer is taller on the 1522, which means that if you put a mil spec in it, it doesn't, on an OEM firing pin on the 1522, it doesn't quite make the best contact. So you get a lot of light strikes, a lot of reliability issues. You should be able to just chuck a Magload relier pin in it and it'd be absolutely fine, but you're still running a trigger that it wasn't designed to go in that gun, or the gun certainly wasn't designed to take that trigger. That's why the likes of Black Rifle released their dedicated 1522 trigger instead. It is different. It is a proprietary trigger. So yeah, there's just all these like little niggles, and don't get me wrong, it's not like the battle arms and the aero precisions, the CMMG builds are faultless. All right, there's certainly a lot more moving parts. It's what I experienced last year in 2022. There's a lot more for them to go wrong. There's a lot more in there to go wrong, and that's what I experienced. One little detent disappeared, and it wrote me off in an entire match, and cost me. I'm still adamant. Cost me the win in another one. So there's that to consider. But if you maintain it, if you know what to look for, if you look after the CMMG builds, then they're very, very hard to beat. But an aero build from Otto is 1,100, 1,200 quid. The battle arms start closer to about £2,000. 1522, you can jump in there at 600 quid. Like it's the marginal gains. I would say for 80, if not 90% of the shooters out there, a 1522 is going to do the job. If you're going after that podium, if you're going after the top spot, then maybe you need to look at a full metal Metal guns. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think the answer is what I'm running at the moment. It's a gun, first and foremost, a gun built by Cotswold Classic Arms, and I would go for the battle arms. They are, I think they're sexy as hell. They're lightweight. The features on them are incredible. Certainly the fully ambidextrous. They come from the factory fully ambidextrous. Is they're just very, very nice guns, and Otto knows those CMMG conversion kits inside and out now. So well, I say now, he knows them inside and out, right? Um, it's yeah, that would be my vote, but I still don't think you can go wrong with a 1522. They are reliable out of the box. You don't need to do anything to them. I would actually advise from doing anything to them. I've only ever had issues with my one when I've tinkered with it. They're just yeah, great guns to get into the sport, and you really can't beat them on price. Ashley, with the new medical part of the FAC, will anxiety affect the process to get my first FAC when I'm a full member of my local club? Not taking any medication for it or anything. I just had panic attacks in the past. Um, it's when it comes to mental health, anxiety, depression, and all that, it's it's impossible to say yes or no, right? It's not going to prohibit you. It's not going to be an automatic no, but it really does depend on the circumstances. It depends on what's on your medical record, the history of it, the severity of it, the frequency of it. If you've just had a couple of acute episodes a few years in the past, it's most likely not going to cause any issue at all. If you are having monthly severe episodes, whether or not you are on medication, if it's regular and not deemed to be under control, then that may cause an issue. But it's not an automatic no. I would just declare everything on there that you can. The fact that the thing is, I know what you're saying about not being on medication, and yes, I can see how that's a yeah, don't worry, I'm not on medication. It's not that bad. The police will look at it the other way. Oh, is he avoiding being on medication? Should he be on medication? Actually, is he more of a risk not being on medication? So I wouldn't necessarily lean on that too much. Chris DMMK, the Chris Defiant is pretty good. If you get one cheap, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Chris. It's a nice little gun. There's people that have had some success with them. The build quality overall and the longevity of them, I've not seen them last particularly well, and pretty much basically I've seen people time and time again wear out a Chris and then go to something else. It's sort of it's a nice starting point. Sort of like the 1522. The 1522 is going to get you to a certain point, and then you're going to have to go and grab something else. The difference in what I've seen is the 1522 you'll still be able to pick up and use after you've used it for a few years and put a few tens of thousands of rounds through it. The Chris would have fallen apart by that point. That's just purely what I've seen in the past. I know there are so many people that rave about the Chris's. I know there's a huge fan base for them. And they're not necessarily bad guns. I've just not seen them last that well. Frank O'Grady, that said, are you going to go to a 223 then for range? Well, not for mini rifle. But I actually haven't much of an interest really in shooting longer ranges. I just want to shoot whatever's put in front of me in a mini rifle match or a practical shotgun match. Yeah, the beauty of I guess it's another win for the CMMG conversion guns, be that the battle arms, aero, Lantax, they're built on the CMMGs as well, is that you can easily switch them between 223 and 22. If you've the guns that Otto builds in 22s, they've got 22 dedicated barrels, but you could ask him to make it with a 223. You put the CMMG conversion kit in there, and then you could easily take that out, put a 223 bolt in there, and easily switch between the two. And that's what a lot of people do. The people that go out and shoot internationally, be that 3-gun or IPSC, they go and shoot full bore rifle internationally. They will have their 2.2 gun. It will have a 223 barrel, CMMG conversion kit, better mag adapter, and they'll probably be running the Smith mags. And then when they go abroad, they just swap everything else out, make it run as it needs to, and then obviously change it before they come back. Alexander Dale, any advice for extraction issues on a new 1522? I've only put 1200 rounds through it, but it can barely fire two in a row with with either stovepiping or jamming of some variety. My normal thing with the 1522 is that if it's not running, it's clean it. Obviously, you've said it's new and only 1200 rounds. 1200 rounds is still quite a lot. Still might need like just a little bit of cleaning if it's sort of happened nearer the end of that 1200 rounds. The one thing that 100% I would check at the moment with the 1522s are the mags and the mag wells. The mags are shite, right? I don't know what they've done. The mags used to be absolutely brilliant on the 1522. Now they just look like molten garbage. The tolerances are all out of them. The finish is shite on them. They stick in guns. So, you know, if they've swollen out a little bit and it's sticking, like really the magazine should float slightly. So I would just check that it's freely sitting in the magwell to begin with. There should be a very slight bit of movement there. And check the feed lips. Unfortunately, I don't have a 1522 to hand, but there is a video on the channel where I show you for the signs to look out for. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's a brand new gun. It's a brand new mag. We've seen the 1522 magazines wear out after a few hundred rounds. Like the material has changed. The tolerances are just are ridiculous now on them. Yeah, they're making them out of cheese, right? And they're wearing out. The 1522 that I bought, like getting on nearly 10 years ago now. Up until I met Connors, um, no, it's probably about about 7 years, right? So I put, I think it was estimated 20 or 30,000 rounds through through my 1522, right? Now, it wasn't all through one magazine, but I had a magazine that had been a significant part of that 20 or 30,000 rounds, and was still going strong until a couple of years ago, right? So you're talking thousands of rounds that had been put through that mag, potentially getting closer up to 10,000 rounds that had been up that mag, and it was still fine. I think the fate of that one, it ended up splitting. The feed lips didn't actually wear out. The magazine split. So the old mags on the 1522s, they used to just go on and on and on. They were brilliant. The tolerances were consistent on them. Never had any issues, but the new magazines, I guess they're using just a different blend of plastic, whatever. Then just not making them to the same quality. So 100%, yeah, give it a clean, check the mags, try a different mag, and also ammunition. Like, what ammunition are you using? Put some mini mag in it. Put some good quality, high velocity ammunition through it. SK is another good one that we're seeing like people raving about. But high velocity ammunition. If you're using subsonics, if you're using lower quality ammunition, it might 2.2 is not the most reliable ammunition in the world to begin with. Certainly not the plinking semi-auto stuff. So yeah, there's a few things. Seems worse when clean, slightly better when dirty. Yeah, it could be. It could just be like you've got a faulty extractor. Have you checked? Does the extractor have any chips on it? Are there any bits missing from it? Worst case, if you want to bring it down, Connors can give it a quick once over just to look for anything obvious. If you're able to come down to Magload, be more than happy to check it out for you. Yeah, extraction. Yeah, it's just usually dirt or broken extractor, but I don't know. From what I've seen, probably the magazines. But let us know. Get in contact if you if you need any further help with that one. Yeah, back onto, we've just gone off on a very fairly big tangent, or many tangents there. 2023. What else did we see in 2023? Well, we did see some legislation changes. Not forgetting, I'm going to bring this up now. The Firearms Act 2023. So we did see some changes in our law. This was well expected. Wasn't a shock at all. And I think overall won't have too much of an effect on the shooting community as a whole. So yeah, these are areas of law that changed and came into effect this year. Miniature rifle ranges and shooting galleries, you will now need a firearm or registered dealers, a firearms dealership, to be able to run a miniature rifle range, but the changes don't affect. Apologies, guys. The changes don't affect people being able to go and use them. So as long as you're not a prohibited person, you'll still be able to go to these ranges and make use of it. It's just the people running them will need to have certification and background checks. I think everyone was pretty happy with that. Obviously, the component parts, we haven't yet. Maybe this is going to be something that's going to rear its ugly head in 2023, 2024. But yeah, the changes was that they sort of redefined the component parts of ammunition and made it an offence to be in possession of any of those parts with the intent to manufacture. Like previously, cartridge and cases and bullets, anybody could go in and buy. You could have any quantity that you wanted. It didn't matter. There were no sort of restrictions on it. Obviously, propellant and primers, yes, you can get hold of blanks and stuff like that, but there were previous restrictions on that. But now there is a new law from this year that if you are caught with those component parts and they can prove that you have the intent to manufacture, you could be facing a custodial sentence. Now, this was one that was it was very interesting overall, and if you remember, there were various other aspects that they were trying to bring in. I believe at one point they were trying to club in changing the ages on air guns and air gun use and various exemptions with air guns. They were trying to close off those and make it um, harder for air gun shooters or younger children. And I believe the other aspect that they were trying to close in on was sort of high muzzle energy rifles, or certainly the storage around high muzzle energy rifles. Of course, we haven't seen any of that come into effect. Those were the only changes in the end. But something that was talked repeatedly that we didn't see a change, and it was proposed whilst this bill, the Firearms Act 2023, whilst it was going through the Houses of Commons and Houses of Lords, one of the things that they tried to bring in was actually removing moderators off tickets. So making sure that basically they weren't a restricted component anymore. And to me, that's just a no-brainer. Like, you need to have the gun in the first place and the ammunition to start worrying about a moderator. If someone's just got a moderator, it's like, good for you. What are you going to do? Hit me with it. So it's more paperwork. It's more admin for firearms licensing. So just get them off tickets. That doesn't, like, if somebody's shooting at me, like, I don't care if it's a moderated gun or not. It's the fact that they're shooting at me. Like, oh, if only he had heard him coming. Well, I'm sorry, like, well, the bullet's traveling faster than the speed of sound anyway. Like, I'm not gonna hear it. So it makes absolutely no difference. I think the whole reluctance of the Home Office and firearms licensing and the police to remove moderators off tickets all boils down to the misinformation from movies, that the fact that the only people in the world that would need a moderator, a suppressor, a silencer is some bloodthirsty assassin, that as soon as you put that moderator on there, that gun is going to become silent, completely silent, that you're suddenly going to be dressed. You screw a moderator on your gun, and you're suddenly going to be dressed head to toe in black, and you're going to have a balaclava, and you're going to be creeping through the streets at night with your gun, right? Although actually, I have just described a lot of stalkers there. But anyway, uh, it's the stalkers they're scared of. It's not the it's not the assassins. It's not the snipers. It's the stalkers. Um, what was it earlier this year? I said no. Oh, that was it. No officer. I was shooting at a deer. I can't even remember the context of that, but it still needs to be a t-shirt. I think that was because. Oh no, that was it. Yeah, because with the lead ammunition ban, they were still going to allow shooting. I think they proposed still being able to shoot at game with rifle ammunition, but if you're on a designated site, like but basically there would be an exemption that you could use lead ammunition if you were shooting at a deer. So Bisley with having deer on the range, it's like no officer or shooting at a deer. Anyway, yeah, I think there's this real just misconception and misinformation about moderators, and it really does hurt everyone. It's to the detriment of everyone that they won't just take them off ticket. It's really not preventing any crime by having moderators off ticket. So yeah, overall, in terms of changes to legislation, the Firearms Act 2023 was pretty mundane. There are some concerns, obviously, about them using this to needlessly go after legitimate firearms owners or collectors with the whole thing about ammunition components. So again, maybe that might rear its head, but we will have to wait and see on that one. Oh God, who? Oh, I saw it. I saw it. Talking of mags, talking about mags, I know it has only been 2 or 3 weeks, but do we have an update? Yeah, I am going to get triggered. I am not well enough to be dealing with this shit. David Lewis, 2024, the year of Magload magazines. I mean, it's saying something about Hampshire if we end up releasing these magazines before I get my FAC back. Hampshire, your time is running out. Like, seriously, their time is running out. It is looking very, very good. Very, very good. Let's make me a bit bigger. I'm small there. Just wait for the balaclava license. Yeah, don't you know it? So the magazines. I can't remember what I said last week. I think I went into the whole we've changed injection molders. The previous injection molders were just useless. The new guys are absolutely awesome. So they've done all the flow simulation. I believe the model has been tweaked again to within an inch of his life. Oh yeah, this is the difference. This is one of the biggest difference. Basically, what was happening with the old guys was they would tell us exactly the tolerances that they could work to. Connors would go back and design the magazine around those tolerances. We would hand them something that was within all of the metrics and tolerances that they had set out, and then they would literally just change their mind, like, oh yeah, no, actually we can't make it to that tighter tolerance. Okay, but if you can't make that to that tighter tolerance, you can't make the magazines. Like, it was infuriating. But so we were constantly chasing our tails with that. What ended up happening with the new injection molders, sent them all of the all of the we sent them the design. They recommended a few things, and we got to a point where Connors was saying, "Oh, I can tighten this up, I can tighten that up," and he's like, why do you need to tighten this up or tighten that up or open this up or open that up?" And he's like, "Well, just in case you can't hit that tolerance." And like the guy was like, "Like, what you have given us is not even getting close to the level of tolerance that we can hold." And he's like, "What?" And they genuinely had this conversation where he was like, "Look, if you have been basically for the last couple of years pushed into a corner because they want you to have the loosest tolerance possible because they literally can't injection mold a detailed piece of turd, then give me what you really want, right? Give me the design and the tolerances that you want, not what you've previously been giving to somebody else. So Connors did, and he gave them all of the tolerances, and the injection molders came back and said, "Let's make them tighter." And it's like, what? It's like these are still far like it's like, we can hit far tighter tolerances than this. Let's go even further. If it's gonna make it a better product, if it's gonna make it more consistent, more reliable, we'll make it tighter tolerance. He's like, you're not even getting to anywhere near the level where I'm going to start charging you more money for tighter tolerance, right? So it's just completely, we spent 2 years with them going, yeah, we want plus or minus 10 meters. And this guy's like, no, you can do plus or minus 10 micron, like I'll hit it. So it's chalk and cheese. So anyway, they've done the flow analysis of the tooling. um I believe when they get back, there will be the final confirmation. They've already started machining the tools. Prior to Christmas, they were machining the tools. So we were told 6 weeks, and they said that was a hard deadline. Like if we tell you 6 weeks, it will be 6 weeks. You're in the schedule. We won't miss that date for first off of the machine. We are not entirely sure whether whether that 6 weeks started in the middle of December, or it starts when we get back and the tooling hits the machine. But we believe we're already in the 6 weeks. Either way, what we have been saying to people is February, because even if it's 6 weeks from like the first, that will bring us to middle of February. Yes, we will need a little bit of a little further bit more testing and assembly, but we should be able to get that all done within a couple of weeks. If the 6 weeks has already started counting down, then we are going to be well on track for February, assuming that everything goes wrong, and for once it's not actually our design that's causing the issues. But yeah, the way that they're working, it's brilliant. You know, they're making, the reason that they've already started machining the tools is that they do a very rough cavity, and then they go in there with basically a negative and spark erode the real fine details. The spark eroding machines are terrifying because it's vats of water and a very high electricity. It's insane stuff. Well, it's not. I don't think it's some sort of solution, not water. But yeah, they literally use electricity to spark erode the material to get the finest detail and tolerances possible with these molds. So what they end up doing is they make the molds, I think, slightly undersized, and then they can go in with this spark eroding tool and they sort of wiggle it about. So the first offs are probably going to be a little bit too small. And then we will be able to go back to them and go, look, can you open this up a little bit? Can you open that up a little bit? And they basically walk this tool in the molds and yeah, just fine tune all of the dimensions to exactly how we want. So we've literally got wiggle room. That's like, you know, if there was ever a thing, yeah, ever an expression for wiggle room, like they're literally going to wiggle the room in this to get it perfect. So that is what we're saying. Again, like the reason that we haven't given any dates for quite a long time is because we've just lost all faith. We have a lot of faith with these guys. We're very, very confident. That's why we are saying it now. Again, it's not 100%. It's not 100%. I have learned my lessons with giving 100% promises and guarantees on the delivery of mags. But yeah, yeah, bearing in mind that it's going to cost us probably in the region of about 6 or 7 times what we were going to pay the last guys. If these don't work, yeah, yeah, there are going to be very big questions to be answered. So yeah, we've put our money where our mouth is. We're paying for who we believe are the best in the business. Yeah, there's no small price with that, but we need to get it done anyway. David Lewis, I'll buy one just for the novelty value and support. A British business. Well, I appreciate that. If maybe we should do maybe we should do like English shooting edition mags. Yeah, that's I could do it so when you insert it in the gun, it like there's like a design that sort of hides it. And oh yeah, there's a few things. Will there be speed loaders for the new mags? Yes. Now that we are very confident with the design and where they're going, and they're basically well, certainly the tooling is in production. Connors has now been able to switch from so as far as he's concerned, the magazine design is done now. He's not working on the magazines anymore. He's done all the work for all the adapters and the speed loaders. So we have a McFadden adapter. So our magazine isn't a direct replica of the 1522 magazine, because otherwise we'd get sued, and also they're not as good anymore, so why would we replicate them? So it will need its own McFadden adapter to use with the McFadden loaders, but that is already designed, it's working, and it's ready to go. So and it's what Connors has done is yeah, pretty genius overall, but don't tell him I said that. So with our magazines, there's actually been no pictures of these. I keep on feeling bad that we're talking about magazines and it's like the last stream of the year, but then we have literally talked about the magazines continuously throughout this year, so I guess it's a little bit apt that we are continuing to talk about it. Let me just try and get a picture up for you guys so I can show you. Yeah, please don't be worried. Like, I know they were on pre-order. We stopped the pre-order because we didn't want to piss anybody else off. They will be coming into stock very, very soon. All things going well. Let me try and pick up this. I've got no pictures of the front of the magazine, which is exactly what I wanted to show you. But anyway, up around here at the front of the magazine, let's just make that bigger. There we go. Hate it when it does that. No, stop. Oh, well, this is less than ideal. Basically, in this bit, there is a little hole. There's a further recess at the rear of it. Then that's very small. Anyway, let's go back. There's a hole here and another hole here at the back. Basically, what we're going for is a universal 2.2 magazine. So out of the box, it will work with the 1522. It will work with the Betamax adapters, just straight out of the box. But if you want to use it with the CMMG conversion kit without a Betamax adapter, or you want to run it with in a Tippmann or a Chris Defiance, then you will need a little add-on adapter that basically secures itself within those holes. Now, it's not what I was worried when Connors suggested this is that it would look like a bolt-on, and they really don't. Like, it looks part of the magazine on it. It's not flimsy, it doesn't move about, it's solid and secured on top of that magazine. It's just to give it that little bit of extra space to fill the different mag wells in the Chris and the Tippmann and a mil-spec AR. So because you've got the this is the pretty genius thing, is that because some of these magazines will have the adapters if you're not running it in a 1522 or with a Betamax, then when you go to use the McFadden loader, it would mean that you would actually need two different adapters depending on what configuration the magazine is in. However, what Connors has done is he's made it so that the McFadden adapter has a little chip that has a little storage clip on the adapter when you're not using it, or if you need to use it, clips into place so you're not going to lose it. Basically means that it will be one adapter for whatever configuration of magazine that you want to buy. So if you've got it set up for a 1522, then you don't need this. No, then I think you need the adapter. I think it's for the 1522 configuration, you need the adapter. If you've got it set up for a Tippmann, then you just remove this little chip and you can use the same adapter. So, we're very conscious of basically not shafting people with the added extras, right? So having to buy a new McFadden loader. We don't want you to have to buy 3 or 4 different ones depending on what configuration you've got it on. The adapters, the bolt-on adapters to use it in other guns as well. We have discussed about supplying them with each magazine. That is what we want to do, but we just don't know about costings at this point. If we can do it, we will. Otherwise, we will be doing absolutely everything to keep them as low as possible. We genuinely don't want to make anything out of the additional adapters, because you're already buying the magazine. Like, why? It's just, in a way, it's just like unfair to then have to pay more because you've got a Tippmann or a Chris, or you don't have a better mag adapter. So they will be released with the magazines themselves. So yeah, it's really designed from the ground up to be a complete universal 2.2. If you have a 2.2 AR style rifle, our magazines are designed to work, and if they don't work with them, then let us know, and we will work our magic and try and get them working with them as we can. Has anybody worked out the interest on the pre-order amount? Yes, we put the price up by £5, so wind your neck in. So if you want, I mean, what have interest rates been over the last 2 years? Between, I don't know, all and fuck. So yeah, like what, 1% per annum on £45. So that's like £4, 4.50 plus, sorry, 4.5p plus the compound. So what you're talking about, something like 9p of interest. So it's okay, Tom. We will cancel your order. We will refund you, and we will pay you the 9p interest that is due. And then you can come back to us and reorder them at the £50 rate. Is it pennies? Oh, no, 10% would be 10. Oh, it's 50. No, it's 90p. 90p, not 9p. But that's fine. We'll give you 90p. You can come back and spend £5 per mag more. I just want bags. So do we. Like, trust me, there's nobody on this planet that wants those mags more than Connors and I. What will be, and I've said this before, we will be including some special thank yous in all of the pre-orders. So there is already one that we've already bought and stocked up on that will be going in. It's something that you can go and buy elsewhere if you really want, but it's still cool as hell. And we are looking at doing a unique thing for the magazine release that only pre-order people will get, and it will only be the pre-order, the magazine pre-order people that will only ever be able to have this, apart from us, because we're, perks of the job. So there will be your interest. Trust me, the little goodies that we will be including will outweigh the 90p in interest that you've effectively lost. Frank, I'm saying Feb. At the moment, it looks on track for February. It could slip into March. We don't know, but we are looking at February. David, will they work in a SIG? The 5.22. We haven't tested with that gun. If it's a SIG 5.22, I haven't tested in it, but I don't. It may be possible for them to put a different adapter on there and do it. English Shooting. I ordered the mag when I ran a 1522, but now use Spike's Tactical. Will I need a better mag adapter? No, you won't. You will just need one of these additional adapters that will bolt to the magazine. That effectively is the better mag adapter on the magazine. These will be available shortly. Well, they'll certainly be available when we release the magazines. Let's have a just quick recap again. Oh, yeah, quick recap. How can we forget that I tend to do it every year without fail. That I also became the news. Controversial Scots shooting competition allows gun activists fight the power uh, with revoked license to take. I haven't I haven't noticed this, right? With revoked license, if something's revoked, it's no longer with you. Like, how can you be with something that's revoked or have something that's revoked? So yeah, grammar. But as we know, beautiful, beautiful screenshot that they chose there. Um, so yeah, this is of course the dregs of gutter journalism, the Daily Record, that for some reason got a massive hard on about Recall Scotland and myself. I mean, at least they chose a fairly decent one for that photo, right? And they decided to attack not just myself but the club and other members of the club in a plethora of articles. And I do just want to make the point that a lot of people, when these were coming out, were like, "Don't engage with them, don't say anything, don't get involved." Blah, 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 blah. As soon as we did, as soon as I, as soon as they started attacking me, it didn't last very long. And I believe the journalist that originally wrote the articles was is no longer on Twitter. So, or she certainly doesn't have her own a picture of herself as her profile. So this is what happens when you actually like. They don't expect people. Usually, people are too scared, and I get it, right? If you're not used to, you know, being public facing and talking online and stuff like that, I can get it. When the mainstream media, when these articles start naming you and putting you in the paper, I can get why most people are just going to run away from that, right? 31 year, right? Yeah, okay, right. I'm 32 now, but this was when was this article? Yeah, April. So my birthday's in August. I'm 32 now. Honest. Um, so yeah, I can get why the majority of people want to run away from it, but come on, guys, like picking an online fight with me. Like, there's still some people, like certain range owners out there that still think it's a good idea to pick a fight online with me. I can assure you I am far more equipped and experienced, and my words cut far deeper when I choose to. I just like being nice. I genuinely try to be as nice as possible nowadays. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. My the apart from when we talk about Basque and the Lead Band, I'm not so leery anymore. I like to think so anyway. But you plaster me all over the internet and start taking pop shot at a club that I have a huge amount of respect for, you're going to get what coming, and they did, and they really didn't like it. Another worrying. This is something that we're going to have to see going forward. Talking about Scotland, and this will. Oh, bless me. This will very much affect clubs like Recoil and other Scottish clubs. We cover this in great depth. Um, Permitted development rights review. So they did this consultation. We've not yet seen the full outcome of this, but has many. Oh, this has many different sort of connotations overall. So just as a quick recap for anybody that doesn't know what permitted development rights are, basically, if you've got a bit of land, there's certain things that you can do with it without having to get planning permission. You don't have to go to the council to change the use or get permission to do something. And one of this thing is there's the 28-day rule, which permits you to do certain activities for up to 28 days a year on a piece of land without needing planning permission and anything formal, right? And it really is the fundamental basis of how outdoor shooting clubs establish themselves. It is how those small clubs end up getting enough members, enough funding to then be able to go for planning permission, to then be able to build a clubhouse with planning permission and build better ranges and better facilities. But you need that initial sort of spark, you need that initial sort of leg up, and that is what the 28-day rule allows you to do. It allows people to shoot just over 2 days a month, or on average, basically 2 days a month. That allows you to build up a club, build up a membership. You can then apply for Home Office approval. You can become more official. You build up funds, and then you can start the very expensive, um, sort of. Very expensive process of actually getting planning permission. What Scotland are trying to do is remove that, specifically remove shooting. And if you guys remember, there's a full video on this as well. But it is the way this is written, and the fact that they're talking about permitted development rights, but then also firearms law. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. No, we're talking about permitted development rights. We're not talking about firearms law. It's so obvious that this is just a backdoor ban to shooting. They understand that a lot of ranges in Scotland and within the UK rely on this today to be able to function. They understand, these people understand that it's the way a lot of clubs start out, and how fundamentally important permitted development rights is for the future and growth of our sport. um they if they remove that, it will be, at the very least, a small death nail in the growth of shooting in Scotland. But the reason that I'm paying so close attention to it is because it's what could come over to the rest of the UK. They could use this as a bit of a trial. They could see the effect of it. Does it have their desired effect, which we know is to shut down shooting clubs and to stop new ones from, coming, popping up. You know, if it is successful in doing that, they may then use that as another prong to attack shooting sports. They went after air guns here. This is the next step. See, that is a little bit of a saving grace for us. Is that the British Parliament, Westminster, has repeatedly said that they will not implement airgun licensing, specifically based on what happened in Scotland. Like, by every metric possible, the airgun licensing in Scotland was a complete failure. It cost like a ridiculous amount of money, and it was some ridiculously low number of the estimated air guns that were actually handed in or licensed, right? So they ended up going way over budget. They spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds implementing this licensing system, and then it was something like only 10 or 20% of the estimated air guns were ever handed in or licensed. So they've still got this 80-90% of air guns out there. So the licensing literally achieved nothing other than, again, penalizing the law abiding, because the people out there shooting toddlers and cats aren't the sort of people that are going to hand in their guns or go and get a license, right? But the guy that is regularly going down his shooting club, and shooting at targets, and understands the basic fundamental aspects of safe firearms handling and responsible safe shooting. Those are the ones that then have to go and get a license and jump through all the hoops, and then are put under the microscope if they do anything wrong. So it achieved nothing, and at least for once, our government have looked at that and gone, yeah, waste of money, didn't achieve anything. Why would we bring it in over here? But that doesn't that doesn't that doesn't mean that they won't necessarily use something like this as an example, and may go after it, because this would affect all the shooting, not just airgun. So yeah, that is something to watch, and again, something that we will probably get a little bit more of an insight of where that is going, if it does go anywhere, in 2024. Um, I'm still hung up on the 31. I bet Connors has disco cloths older than that. Connors isn't that much older. I actually forget. I think he's 3 years older, so he'd be 35 now. I literally have his driving license on file. But yeah, I think he's 35. So he's only 3 years older. hard paper rounds, both of us. That's for certain. It's the beard. Trust me, if I shaved this beard off, I would look 12. It's why I have the beard. Was when people compare old videos and they go, "Jesus, you've aged and you've changed." It is literally the beard and the stubble. Plus, you know, it's a good double chin hider. A technique that I think most men of a certain age realize. That's why everybody that enjoys a good pint here and there, and a good takeaway also has a beard. Uh, just ends up making you look slimmer for longer. Peter Rose, funniest thing of the year was Chris Packham suing the wrong company. Yeah, that's actually a very recent one that we've covered. Again, for anybody that doesn't know, Field Sports Channel TV got they got a handwriting expert to analyze the death threat notes that had been left or sent to Chris Packham, and the expert said that they, in his opinion, they were similar. So you know, he's basically insinuating that Chris Packham was writing his own death threat notes, and basically, Chris Packham was able to successfully prove that this expert didn't have a huge amount of credibility, and he threw it out. And then, of course, because Field Sports Channel TV were the ones that hired him and then made all of this public, they were the ones that then got sued by Chris Packham. Unfortunately, Chris Packham ended up suing. Like, they have a holding company, and then they actually have the production company that's under the holding company. Chris Packham sued the holding company that has no asset, that has no earnings, doesn't even have a bank account. So whilst he technically was successful, like, he's not going to get a penny from them. And Field Sports Channel TV has effectively got off scot free. Evening, Daniel. It's closer to morning at this point than the normal start of the stream. Where have you been? This is like, I'm usually done by this time. Daniel comes strolling in. Evening, guys. Yeah, I've been here the whole time. Oh. Love you, really. Thanks for joining. Talking of Field Sports Britain, obviously we will have to see where this also ends up going. This was a story that I ended up covering in quite some depth in this year. No, it's not just David. So, revocations. We've talked about it in and out with within the stream this evening. It was obviously a big topic, throughout 2023, and we're going to have to really, let's make that a bit bigger so you can actually see it. So this was based off an article. This is, again, another thing that Field Sports News have been covering very, very well throughout the year. Firearm certificate revocation rise. Bass says the number of firearms and shotgun licenses being revoked has gone up. Bearing in mind the total number of certificates for the year has gone down, so proportionately it's an increase as well, which is very scary. Although saying that, if the number of, it sort of goes to reason that if they're revoking more certificates, there's going to be less certificates overall. But basically, they're now literally revoking them faster than new people can get certificates. That is incredibly scary. Basque head of firearms, Martin Parker, says the reason for the record numbers is almost certainly the introduction of statutory guidance on the suitability checks of certificate holders in 2021. Across England and Wales, police revoked 418 firearm certificate in 22 to 23, up from 385 the year before, and the greatest number since records began in 1992. So what you're looking at, about a 10% increase. And bearing in mind, I think total certificates fell by like 5%, 5 or 10% over the last couple of years. So yeah, in the scheme of things, there's 600,000 certificate holders. It's not huge. It's not huge in comparison, but both numbers are heading in the wrong directions, right? Well, obviously, if there is good reason to revoke, then they need to be revoked. But ultimately, if they're having to revoke more, that probably actually shows maybe a weakness or an inefficiency within firearms licensing, that they have given people certificates that they maybe shouldn't have. But we want certificate numbers to go up and we want revocations to go down. And at the moment, those numbers are switched. So we will have to, yeah, hopefully, again, it's all underpinning of firearms licensing and the mess that they have been in. But again, 2024, we're gonna have to see how that goes. Are they going to bring in massive changes? If is there going to be something to kick them up the arse to finally start doing the job that they're meant to be doing, rather than proactively going after certificate holders and proactively revoking certificates, rather than their job of giving them out when people have the have good reason. I'm baking a cake for a birthday tomorrow. Did I miss much? Good to know that I'm obviously less important than a cake. I've been called worse. Mark, don't forget to like the stream. Yes, thank you for the reminder. You guys, it's right there. Just hit that like button. It does make a huge difference. Didn't see the stream pop up. My bad. I was cooking. It's a late hour to be cooking, but who am I to blame? Or who am I to judge? So yeah, what we're going to see in 2024? Well, with all this, bless me, with all this potential change, and again, are we actually going to see the change in the legislation? Be that for firearms licensing or lead, potentially, but again, I think we're certainly going to get a much bigger insight into where they're heading, and certainly what the final changes will be to our thing. I think the lead, we won't get anything come into effect, but we will see the timeline. We will know where we're heading with the legislation for firearms licensing. We may see potentially a big shift. It depends. They can come pretty left field with stuff. If they pull their finger out early in the year, then by the end of it, we might be getting bills passed. We might be getting new legislation, and hopefully, it's all to address the likes that they're focusing on increasing revocations rather than clearing the backlogs and the inconsistencies across firearms licensing up and down the country. So we will definitely have to wait and see on that. So actually, big news, not that's really about 2023 or the past years, but obviously I'm sure you guys had all seen this. But whilst obviously we can't own guns and we can't own handguns here within England, Scotland, and Wales, or certainly it's very hard to own them. If you're any sort of shooting enthusiast, you know what a Glock is. Revolutionary pistol used by like all sorts, from competition to military to police. It's you've all heard the word Glock, and Gaston Glock, the man who developed the Glock handgun, has died, and that was I think it actually came out yesterday. This is such an introduction. The billionaire survived an attempted assassination in 1999 when one of his closest financial advisors hired a hitman to attack him with a rubber mallet in a car park, but the manufacturer fought him off. You fight plastic with plastic, am I right? With a rubber mallet. Sorry, you're going to attack like arguably one of the largest, if not the largest, firearms manufacturers in the world with a rubber mallet. Like, you better come better armed. That's what I'm gonna say. Gaston Glock, the man who gave his name to the handgun used by again, like Sky just can't help themselves, can they? Used by security services, militaries, and criminals around the world. It's not just security, police, maybe sports persons, world champions, all of that. Like, no, criminals around the world. Technically, they're not wrong. Yeah, there's so much I didn't really understand or know about it. He founded the Glock in Vienna, making door hinges, curtain rods, and knives. I'm in the wrong industry. It wasn't until 1982, when he was 52, that he invented the firearm, decades after being a teenage. Oh, oh dear. Um, he was described as a reclusive billionaire, obviously giving millions of charities and handing over funds to political parties, notably the right-wing Freedom Party of Austria. Yeah, so obviously you don't get much bigger figures in the industry than the man that invented the Glock. Needless to say, his invention will live on. There's no doubt about it. One of, if not the biggest companies in the world when it comes to guns. And the Glock was the first gun that I shot. First handgun, though. First, technically, the first handgun that I ever fired was a muzzle loading black powder revolver. But certainly the first semi-automatic handgun that I ever shot was a Glock, and I'm sure that is the case for many people out there. They're just so plentiful and so common. It's just so easy to get your hands on one legally and shoot one. And also, I've said this before. Whilst I seem to be having very good luck at getting CZ um, SPO1s and SPO2s while out competition, which is sort of like the go-to gun in production. You can always get a Glock. And I've said this before. If you really want to go and be serious about competing abroad, just resign yourself to shooting a Glock. And yes, I know they're Marmite. I know not everybody likes them, and you can pick holes in them left, right, and center. Oh, it's a service weapon. It's not a competition firearm. Yeah, it was designed to be a service weapon and not a competition firearm. But I tell you what, if you were to go and shoot, let's say, half a dozen competitions a year, and you shot every single one of them with the same model of Glock, same grip, same accessories, not necessarily the same gun, but literally just bog standard Glock, you would end up doing better, regardless of how you get on with the gun. You would end up doing better than if every single time you went to a competition it was a different gun, because getting to know the gun, muscle memory, familiarity is so important. And I think it's a real testament of what Glock has done, that it's just, you can go anywhere in the world shooting, you're going to be able to get your hand on a Glock if you want. Has Callum complained about them having a man cold yet? Yes, several times all throughout the stream. I'm incredibly ill. I may die. I've got the black lung. I don't actually have a cough. It's just all very nasally, which I'm sure is lovely for you guys. I apologize, but it was this, and it was put off me sniffing and sneezing, then not do it. Rubber mallet. What? He bought a rubber mallet to a Glock fight. Oh dear, he chose poorly. Again, like the guy that invented the Glock, you're going to come after with a rubber mallet. Jeez. Oh, but yeah, so some big news there. But that's part of the reason that I ended up doing this sort of uh look back over the years. During this period, like, sort of nothing seems to happen. Basque, apart from one of the largest figures in the firearms industry, passing away, but Basque has shut up shop. There's really sort of no other stuff going on, obviously, apart from the big news of Glock. Obviously, I just like to remind you guys, as part of why I've done it all stream, about the challenges that we may be facing going forward into 2024. Overall, I'm optimistic, whilst I may seem to be always the doom and gloom, like, oh god, this is happening, we may lose this, or they're going to restrict this. We always find a way, right? And if I leave this year on a positive note, if somebody that has had their firearm certificates revoked can start a legitimate company, or certainly be a part of the significant growth of a legitimate company within the shooting industry, work full time in the industry, have more guns go through their hands on a daily basis than most people with an FAC, and still manages to go to most of the competitions in the UK and certainly a lot of the international ones, then anyone, like, we're always going to find a way, right? And that's why I'm always so passionate about sharing the law and current events and all that. It's not necessarily about we should just sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. Oh, they're going to ban lead. Oh, they're going to bring more restrictions in. Oh, they're going to do this. They're going to do that. Right? It's being aware of it. Like, what are they changing? Be aware of it. Get in front of it. And work out how we can still carry on to do everything that we're going to do. Right? Is losing lead going to be the absolute end of the world? No. Right? It's going to affect us as much as we let it affect us. If we could all just use it as the excuse to pack up shop now, sell everything up, and go and take up knitting, right? And that's what the HSE wants. That's how they win. So the way you don't let them win, the way you don't let the Home Office win and the government win, is go and buy steel shot. If you've got to buy a new shotgun every, 5, 10 years, I know, steel shot is not that bad, but you know, fine, do it. Support your gun shops more. Instead of buying that silver pigeon and having it for 40 years, buy one every 10 years because you shot out the barrel shooting steel, right? Keep up the sport, keep doing it, keep finding ways to making sure that the government knows, the Home Office knows, and people like the HSC and your firearms licensing department knows that we love this sport too much to give it up. We love this sport too much to have a little bit of aggro put us off. And again, if I can go through all of the aggro that I've been through over the last 10 years and the significant encouragement that I have been given by various avenues to give up this sport, and I'm still here, then I think anybody else can put up with what they're proposing, what we may see in 24 and beyond. It's not all doom and gloom. We could what's the expression? Um Oh, there's always a country that's the butt of the jokes. But anyway, so it could be a lot worse. So like we could live in Japan, right? Japan is horrific for firearms ownership. Canada, it seems to be trying to overtake us very, very quickly for one of the worst places to live for firearms. Australia is also doing a good job. This has happened across the world, but there's still shooters in Canada, right? We saw them out in the European Handgun Championships. We've seen Australians at the European at big um, championships. They were all out at the shotgun championships. Like, shooting is still going to, you can't uninvent the gun. They might try and restrict it to within an inch of his life. We will always find a way to fire some sort of projectile at some sort of target. So that's why I think I'm it's just sort of water off a duck's back at this point with all this legislation changes, lead bans, and all of that. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, every single time we find a way. Ban handguns, we'll put a rod on the end and a long barrel. So yeah, I'm optimistic that there's enough passion within this industry to overcome whatever they may throw at us. Are we going to always stop it? No. Are we ever going to claw anything back? I don't know. But all the time we can do it, I'm going to be out there, or out there shooting in whatever guise that is. Ah. And before I say that, just make sure you've liked the stream. Of course, this will be the final stream of 2023. Let me get rid of the stop. I don't know why it doesn't automatically make it big like that, but there we go. What are you guys saying? Message me when you're free and we need to chat about broad matches. Absolutely. ASMR sniff times should start and OnlyFans. I am growingly concerned about the amount of suggestions that I get from you guys to start up an OnlyFans. I'm scared but curious as well, because you hear all these stories of I managed to retire on OnlyFans. Like, what? you know, how did you get that a Lamborghini? Yeah, OnlyFans, cool. Yep, I'll take that. Peter Rose, it's pheasant shooting season at the minute, so could you do recipes? Yeah, pigeon spaghetti. I need to do that. That will happen at some point. I'm going to get somebody for an interview from Basque, and I'm going to be right. We do things a little bit differently here on English Shooting. We like to cook as we do our interviews. If I die before I get a representative of Basque on this channel cooking pigeon spaghetti, I will die a very unhappy, unfulfilled man. Going to try my dog on pheasant as he can't eat chicken or turkey. Why can't he? Does he work for Basque? Um, Daniel, will you have a video to round off 2023? If I'm going to be honest, probably not. This was something I did want to touch on, so thank you for reminding me. I am fully conscious and aware that this year hasn't been the best for video and content and consistency on the live stream. I'm fully aware of it. I'm not going anywhere. It's just about balancing stuff. I think I'm getting there. So there won't be any roundup video 2023. This is effectively the roundup video. I've just really focused on still covering the news this year, but there's a million and one videos that I've filmed that I want to get out there, and I will for that. That's one of my biggest New Year's resolutions for 24 is get back onto those weekly videos. I am sort of leaning to sort of switching the live streams to every couple of weeks. A lot of the time it just doesn't work doing it weeklies because we might be away. And also I end up just covering everything in the live streams, and then it's like, well, why am I going to do a video? I've already covered it on the live stream. So the live stream sort of give me an excuse to not do the videos, and I think the video should be coming first because not everyone wants to sit down for an hour and a half to 2.5 hours and watch the full live stream. And I think we cover some pretty important topics that more people should be aware of. So yeah, I may sort of try and balance it and do I tend to do the live stream every 2 weeks as it is, so try and move them to every 2 weeks and then more videos. But yeah, New Year's resolution for me: more videos, more content, and keep the channel growing and helping people into the sport. British Evian Spaghetti Committee. We could be here for a very, very long time finding quite ironic acronyms for Basque. That's or different acronyms for Basque. But there we go. But on that note, it has been a long one. I generally thought I might only manage an hour or an hour and a half, but sniffing at you guys was just too enjoyable. So we've done we've done a fairly long one, but sort of good to end the year on a big, nice, long stream. So yeah, I wish everybody the very best for 2024. I hope, of course, you get out there and do as much shooting as possible. I hope it's filled with new guns in the new year for you. Try and I would say two things if you can try in 2024. Try a new discipline of shooting. Go and try something else, but be that maybe you're more of a target shooter. Go try some clay pigeon shooting if you haven't already, or go try some practical or CSR. There's such a healthy breadth of disciplines within this community. There's still different ones that I like. Seriously, it wasn't until a year or two ago that I knew that there was cowboy action shooting here in the UK, and I'm sure there's a lot of people you watching this now going, "There's what? Where? How?" There's literally every discipline that you can imagine and more. So go and try a new one. right? We don't always have to stay in our little communal bubbles. Get out there and try a new one. I really want to try PRS. Yeah, PRS is on my list in 2024 to go and try and have a go at. So go and try a new discipline and introduce someone new to shooting. If you're going to do two things to help this sport in 2024, go and try something new yourself, because you might just find that you enjoy it, and then there's another club and another, niche of shooting that you will be supporting with businesses and clubs and membership and stuff like that. But also introduce somebody, right? You're the lucky ones. You found this sport. You know how to get into it. You're already doing it. You most likely already have all your guns. Just spare a thought for when you didn't know the sport existed. You didn't know how to get into it, and put yourself out there to try and encourage somebody new into it. Help them into the, take somebody new shooting. If we all did that, there'd be 600,000. If every single certificate holder took just one person that hadn't been shooting before, shooting in 24, there would be 600,000 people that would understand, at the very least, just a little bit more about our sport. So try and make that a priority or a New Year's resolution. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it there. Happy New Year to you guys. Thank you all for your continued support on the channel, for tuning in. I would say every week, but whenever we do these streams, and being a part of it, and messages and comments and watching and liking and subscribing and sharing and all of that fun stuff. Again, for more reasons that I will go into now, 23 has been a pretty incredible year for me. I hope it has all for you. And yeah, may 2024 continue that. So all the best. A happy new year. Make sure you like, subscribed, and of course, as always, guys, hope to see you soon.